everybody on YouTube. I think it says we're going live. I never really know when we're live. Hey, everybody on YouTube. Hey, everybody on Facebook. What's happening? Cool. All right. I think we made it work. Now we got to send out all the tweets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where is... Hey, Mac Vader. What's the haps, man? Live stream. That's us. MGG 864. Right? 864 is today. Yeah.
That's it. There we go.
Right? 864 is today?
I hope so.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Does it appear?
What the?
YouTube says it appears.
Whoa. What's going on here?
Nice, Mac Vader. Happy Easter. Yeah, absolutely. There we are. Okay, good. That one out. That one out. That one out. Oh, now I need to go and do my thing. I'm trying to... Well, let's see. Hang on. We sent that out. Oh, I need to get my... If I don't get my checklist up, we are not, it's not going to happen. Okay, turn on the light. Black hole input level. That's good. Set the camera brightness. Looks good. I got to take off this shirt though. Not the one underneath. No, we're not going to go that far. Reselect John's audio. Your video looks good on stereo. Yes. Confirm Logic has noise gates and EQ. Yes. Check John's levels. Start the IceCast stream. I knew there was something. Right? We are. Yes, we are streaming. Okay. IceCast. Sweet. Wow. Lots of people out here today. Already. This is great. Nice, nice. Hey, Brian Monroe. Hey, Dave Ginsburg. Paul Franz. We did rang. Brian 8944. Arizona. I didn't realize. For some reason,
look at that,
Brian. I thought you were in Connecticut. There's a lot of Brians who listen. There's a lot of Brians currently in the chat room, but I thought you were the Brian from Connecticut. I don't know why I ever thought that. So now, nice to know. Thanks, Brian 8944. Average Wine Enthusiast. Mike, what's up? Dave Ginsburg, Dice Man, Dr. Dream. Keeping me in music.
Okay, I'm going to link to this little app. I think you'll like it per our conversation.
All right, cool. Put it in the put it in the chat room. Listener Walt, MG, Mon VT, what's happening? Niceville Steve, Sally, what's up? Petter Holstad, hey. When will the video stream be available in the MACGEEKGAB app? I like that question. I don't have an answer for that, Petter, but I do like that question. That would be a good thing. I agree. Oh, cool. That's great. 51 in Boise. Yeah, I think it's it's somewhere in that realm here today. I don't know. All right. Good.
Yeah, I saw you got snow.
A little bit.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
In April.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't get much. We've had 6 inches of snow in April before, but not this time. We had snow in April in Connecticut when we lived there. I remember one year. It happens.
All right.
Okay. Oh, very nice, Dr. Dream. Got the emails. That's great. Thanks.
And actually, the format of that barcode is open.
Stop reading my emails, Dr. Dream. Yeah, John, what's up?
No, in that program, actually, this is the other thing, is that barcode is not protected in any way. So I was able to basically create a barcode that said I was a certain age, and it worked just fine.
That makes sense. I believe it. Sure.
No, but it's lame because they should encrypt it or something.
Sure.
But they don't.
But no. Well, if they encrypted it, then they would need to have more, like it's the difference between
a secure, they would need a terminal with some sort of
right.
smarts in it. And
I mean,
they may not want to do that.
Well, it's like, look how HomeKit rolled out with all of its super hoopty security initially versus, the Amazon or Google platforms, and which one got more widespread acceptance more quickly. The one that didn't have all the super hoop, it didn't require you to buy hardware that had all the super hoopty security. Security is not convenient and often not economical. And I think that's the part that many security enthusiasts, including the initial HomeKit team at Apple, missed out on, is that the level of security that they put into place for HomeKit initially was not economical. And I think that's something that's lost on people. So, but my freaking trackpad that I love to use, my initial like OG Magic trackpad, is it like thinks it's clicked half the time, and I had to pull the batteries out. I'm very upset about all this. Very angry. Don't
humidity, maybe?
No. It's anything.
Lack of humidity?
Anything but humid. No, I think it's the feet on it. All right,
that's weird.
Get heaved up. I mean, it's the thing's, I don't know, 6 years old, 7 years old or something. So, yeah, it's just
I just remember once when I got liquid into my trackpad on an older MacBook. Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's not the trackpad.
Not good.
The trackpad tracks fine. It's that the buttons don't click. And the buttons on these, this is the OG trackpad. The buttons on these are in the feet. And I can feel it that one of them is like not quite the same. I've read that I can pop this bottom off. I think you start up here and like spudger it. And you can replace the feed or do something. So I might try that, but I think I'll probably just buy it.
Okay, so it's a mechanical issue, it sounds like.
I believe so. Yeah, the new trackpads, the second-gen trackpads are non-mechanical clickers. They're the haptic ones like we have in our MacBooks that feel like that we would swear move, but do not move. Yeah, that's the trick, Mac Vader, isn't it? So I will just get a new one. But now I'm back to the mouse. Thankfully, I have a mouse pad. It's weird. I have this old, I don't even know if I can show it to you. There it is. Yeah, it's a Razer. I mean, it's disgusting and dirty and all that, but it's a Razer optical mouse and wired, super high resolution for gaming and stuff. I don't know. And it does not work on most surfaces. I need to use the Razer trackpad in order for it to function. So yeah, I'm just going to buy a new one. Maybe I'll buy a new one to go along with the new Mac that's on the way, which I'm sure I'll talk about in the show. Okay. Oh, all right. And hopefully the show doesn't freak out today, because I am recording so that I have a real video copy that I can give to Sadie. So I'm not slurping one down from Facebook, or she's not. Hopefully it works okay. Everybody seeing all the stuff that Sadie's posting to like Instagram and everywhere else? It's pretty good, man, having all that content out there.
Yeah, but I don't want to see me. I'm like, get out of my face, me.
I probably should record like 3 videos from the show. The mix, the me, the you. I'm not sure if Mimo will let me do that, but I am recording everything, so. Okay. Oh, that's the idea, Dave Ginsburg, is finding our new audience members wherever they are and speaking to them in their native language there. That's sort of the prime directive of this, is growing the audience by going and helping people wherever they are. So thanks, Prime and Row. Yeah, Sadie is kicking ass. We're very happy, even just in her first week here, man. Like already I can see we're moving in the right direction. So it is good. Wish I had done this a year ago, but you know, I mean, we sent out the first feelers for this job 3 days before pandemic hit. Yeah, I agree about the graphics. Those little infographics that she's doing are amazing. I was really stoked by that. Okay. Yeah, we're trying, Mac Vader. We're trying. Consistency is the key. But if anybody has any ideas or anything, you know, obviously let us know. Thoughts, you know, good, negative, positive, negative, or just different. Like, hey, you're doing this, but have you thought about doing that? Because now we have someone that can do that. I mean, yeah, currently all she's doing is MACGEEKGAB, but that's just as she gets up to speed. We will expand that out to other shows. MACGEEKGAB doesn't quite justify paying a full-time employee for stuff like that. But thankfully, here at Backbeat Media, we have other shows. So if I can get Sadie doing 5 or 6 shows, then we're in good shape. So, All right. Yeah, let's talk this through. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reverse this.
M1. Well, it's M1 stuff.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of M1. I mean, like that's one thing we've always been good at with our listeners, is flowing in the direction of their trends. Thank goodness. Yeah, that's the idea, Dave.
There's Evernote. Nope, don't need those tips. Nope. Evernote, go, stop.
863. Oh, let me look at this. That might be one to push to next week. Andrew, let's see, MACGEEKGAB, current show. Andrew, oh, let's see, wait. We did that. We made that live. We sent the tweet. We said that. We get the first sponsor. So we get the Frago theme music. Sponsor love. Okay, good. Andrew, you know, I'm going to take this and move it to 865. And we'll just call it a cool stuff found. Okay.
What the? I don't get it.
I don't feel tardy. What's up? What's the problem, John?
Evernote. I click on an entry and I get the spinning green wheel of
that's not
eternal
good.
Patience.
Quit and quit and relaunch.
Yep, that's it.
All right.
It's always the solution. Turn it on, then off again, or off, or on, then off again, or off, then on again. Yeah. Now wait, I had thought I had put a. newer version of that in here. Almost certain I did. Where is it?
What, of which question, John?
Oh, no. Okay. No, the newest one, the newer one is in there.
Is the right ones in there for whatever question it is?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Are you talking about the Kevin one with FileVault that because that turned into more of a tip than a question. I don't know. I mean, in that sense, yeah.
Yeah, not a good place for a page break. Ugh. All right. All right, so Brian, okay, Rodney.
All good?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and I think I'm going to get one of those combiner boxes because the fiber people are coming.
One of those combiner boxes.
Load balancer.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want you're talking about a router that allows you to have two connections active simultaneously?
Correct. 2 WAN connections.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you want me, I mean, I can have Patrick probably send you a Synology.
Oh, yeah, that could be nice.
Okay.
That would do it.
Cool.
But also I found a box from TP-Link for like $50 that, I'm willing to throw down my own coin for that. And we could give advice to people based on that. If that's all they're looking to do, then something like that may be a better choice.
Interesting.
I mean, hey, I love getting new stuff, but I know it's
so this is not this box from TP-Link is not a router. It's just a.
Well, it is, yes, but it's a router that has multiple WAN ports.
But it's not a Wi-Fi access point.
Correct.
Got it. So it's truly
it's just got Ether.
Just a router.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just got Ethernet ports.
Huh. And it'll do gigabit speeds. The CPU's fast enough.
That's what it claims.
And it has like buffer bloat protection and all that stuff. At $50, it seems hard to get a CPU in there that would be doing all the things that you have become accustomed to having your network do. And so you would have to put your Eero in bridge mode, yeah, with this?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll research it. I mean, if TP-Link will also send us stuff. I mean, if we're going to review it, test it.
All right. All right, and we'll play with that later. So now I click on my bookmarks in Safari, and I'm getting this spinning wheel of patience again. All right.
When was the last time you rebooted?
Rodney.
When was the last time you rebooted?
I don't know. There we go.
This is not good.
All right. So, all right. If you look in the, all right. That's the thing I found in the chat room.
All right. Send that to me in Slack someday so that I have it in a place where I can follow up with it.
Mm-hmm. All right. When is a drive failing? All right. The Backblaze thing, always worth talking about. Archival. Good discussions. Why not? One-stop shopping, right?
Yeah.
Explain NFTs. No. You need to show that video. The SNL video really does explain it.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't think so?
I don't know that I watched that episode of SNL.
Yeah, I'll have to send you that too. Let's see. Quick look at, all right. Troubleshooting iCloud, man. Jose, yep. Remember that? Which app? Apple Watch. Who knows? More questions. Oh, yeah. Pulling them out of the muck there. Migration. Prepping. Best wire. Java, yeah, we're never going to get here. Well, we may. You never know.
Yeah.
Like how drive one. Hey, what about Sonos? How to? All right. Well.
Oh yeah, dude, you don't want this thing. You should read the reviews of this, of what it is and what it very much isn't. No DNS. No, like, I don't think this is what you think it is. But research it and let me know if you want me to have them to put you in touch to send you one. But I don't, this doesn't appear to be the thing that we would recommend to consumers. This is very much like a, yeah. Anyway, yeah, research it and tell me if you really want that. So. All right, let's play him a song, but when we come back, let's make sure we do the time and date thing. Just to make sure we're in sync. Just as a kind of a thing, especially since it seems like it's been a while since you've restarted. All right. Good. We have that. Okay, we will find them a song. I think. There, the safe songs. The safe songs we can play. It's time to rock. We'll rock. We'll be right back. Yeah. Guess we'll leave it this way for a moment. Un momento. Yeah. Good. All right. All right. Small craft warnings. Ah. Very cool. Yeah, Brian Monroe, the Synology RT2600 is the one that's got the potential for the option of dual WAN. Correct. Yeah. So that seems like the only one like that's consumer focused and arguably, you know, the Synology. I mean, I think the nice part about the Synology is it's super easy for someone that's not technically savvy to use, and then also easy. Also very, very customizable, you know, to the point of being crazy. So yeah, no, the Synology is the one. But yeah, dual WAN routers.
All right. Others, and you're not there, so we'll do that little trick and then go back.
Welcome back.
There you go.
Hey.
36, 37, 38, 39, 40,
Hang
41.
On. Hang on. Let me read to you because that's more important. So 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58.
Pretty much.
How close is pretty much, John?
Like a half a second.
Oh, okay. Half a second's fine. You know, more than a second, I would say we have a problem. So, all right. So I'm at 10:43, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Disconnect and reconnect. Let's see. Welcome back.
All
right, hang on. Let me pull up time and date again. Let me refresh it. Okay, here we go. 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 2, 3, 4. Same.
Yeah, like a second or so.
It's really weird. That's not good. Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to see if it gets jittery as we do this. And you're looking at time and date, not your system time, right?
No.
Oh, look at time. Yeah, no. We can't look at our system time is not the thing. We have to both be looking at timeanddate.com.
Oh, all right.
We figured this out last time. Yeah. Okay. So you're looking at timeanddate.com, 34, right. 35, 36, 37.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so your system time is off from timeanddate.com, oddly, because mine is perfectly in sync with it. That's really weird. I don't know what. It's odd.
Yeah, it's like a second off.
That's bizarre. I mean, and you've got like if you go to system preferences.
I'll look at the time server I'm talking to. I mean, I don't know what logic.
I'm at time.apple.com.
Mine is also time.apple.com.
Okay, yeah. So your Mac is not syncing with time.apple.com as regularly as it should.
Yeah. I would think you do that when it wakes up or something, but
because it's your podcasting machine, like you should always have less than 10 days of uptime. Like it just plan to reboot on Saturdays.
Yeah, let's see. What is my uptime? Uptime, 9 days.
Yeah. Okay. I would say once a week is good.
Yeah, I could just schedule a restart.
I thought you did.
Hours.
Like when we talked about this last month, I thought you did schedule a restart.
Yeah, I'll put that on the to-do list.
Well, you just do it. Go into, I mean, if you're already in that, go to Energy Saver. And go to schedule. And oh, you can't, can you? Yeah, you can schedule a restart. Yeah.
No. All right. Schedule a restart every Saturday at, let's do 6 a.m. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well,
all right.
That's locked in.
Sweet. We could, Rob Video Guy. The trick would be knowing pulling from which thing. I mean, we would have to pull it from a known good source, and for whatever reasons, John's computer is not that source. So it's bizarre to me that it's not doing that. Interesting. I'd be curious if your MacBook Pro is in sync. I would guess it is. We are so behind today. Thanks, Michael Ehrman. Happy Easter to you, sir.
It's not showing seconds. Let's get rolling.
All right. You're right, Dr. Dream. Something is curious affecting John's time and space continuum. It's how John comes up with all those like the answers that I would never even consider. It's fantastic.
All right. I think it's me. Yep.
I believe that's correct. Yeah. All right. So we did that. We did this. I am going to do this. Toggle destination live. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to do this the way I want to do it. So at the moment, I'm going to have to do it all manually. Okay. Right. Okay. So that was 2 gigs. Okay, great. Here. 5, 4, 3.
The Mac Observer's MacGeekGab episode 864 for Monday, April 4th, 2021.
Maybe try that again. Hang on. Because Monday is April 5th. Today is April 4th.
Nope.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Let's try this. Hang on. Let me get it there again. 5, 4, 3.
The Mac Observer's MacGeekGab episode 864 for Monday, April 5th, 2021.
And welcome to the Mac Observer's MacGeekGab, the show where you send in your questions, your tips, your cool stuff found. We process all those. We ingest those. Not literally, but, you know, intellectually, we ingest those. We try to answer your questions. We share your tips. We share your cool stuff found. The goal is that each of us gets to each of us gets to learn at least 5 new things every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include Clear, where the code MacGeekGab at clearme.com, where the code MACGEEKGAB will get you 2 free months of their service. Great to see travel stuff coming back. TextExpander.com/podcast, one of my favorite apps. And HelixSleep.com/MGG, the thing that is responsible for me being up and alert and ready to go for this show. We'll talk more in depth about each of them later. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is John F. Braun.
All right, Mr. John F. Braun down in Fairfield, Connecticut. Fairfield doing okay these days? You everything kind of moving along all right?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Went to the health department to do that thing this week. And,
Cool. That's excellent.
Everything seems okay.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad, man. Yeah, it's great. We're all getting, moving forward through this crazy thing. Like I said, we even have a sponsor today that's talking about travel, which is, that hasn't happened for a year. So that's pretty exciting if you ask me. And I know you didn't ask me, but I'm just sharing. It's what we do on this show. We share things. Alex has a quick tip to share. He says, here's a fun finder tip. If you go into System Preferences General Highlight Color, as you might know, you can pick a highlight color. In my case, I have a pastel blue, but it's hard to find the right color when the color picker window is on top. But here is a little trick that will allow for a pseudo-dynamic interaction a tad better than picking a color and then switching to the Finder window to learn if the color will work for you or not. Ah, right, because you're picking a color then you need to see, but the color, if the Finder window is not up front, it's not selected, so you don't get to tell. So here are the steps, he says. Go to System Preferences, General, Highlight Color, and in the dropdown, choose Other. Then click on a Finder window and select some icons. Notice your Finder window must remain active. To keep it active, hold down the Command key while moving the color sliders around. Once you let go of a slider, the selection in your Finder window will update. Continue to Command slide the color controls in the color picker until you find the color that you like. What a really smart trick. So it's this command. You want to have the windows kind of side by side, the color picker as one and your Finder window as the other. But command clicking on that color picker will let you change it without making that the active window. So you get to see the changes in real time, sort of real time on the Finder. That's brilliant. Thank you, Alex. I love that one. Wow. That's, I got to be honest, that's one of those I didn't quite understand until I read it aloud. And now I totally get it. So he does have a small warning. He says, it turns out that the color I chose for the screenshot, he says, is it appears invisible in Mail.app. So when going for a very muted Windows, double check another app before committing and moving on. I'm sure you'd stumble into that. But it's not just the Finder that highlight color affects. Mail is another one of those things. So, check it in other places. But thanks for that, Alex. That's a great tip. I like that. That's always sort of driven me crazy that I have to pick a color and then it's like, yeah, it's good enough. But this lets you get better than good enough. So thanks, man. It's good. It's good.
Speaking of mail.
Yes, sir.
So you suggest that I look at this to maybe address an issue that I've had. So I'll just dive in. Part of our workflow is that we take the email and we output it to a PDF, and then that gets put into Evernote. For whatever reason, I think it's when mail. Yeah, so when mail renders the PDF, it will use color-coded text for multi-level discussions. The problem is the default choice for one of the colors, at least on my display, looks it's very hard to read. It's like a light green against white, and it's just hard to read. So the tip there is change your color coded text if you're going to output to a PDF.
And where do we do that?
We do that in Mail, Preferences, Fonts, and Colors.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah, so now so purple and teal are my two colors, and green is level 3. I should probably not make that green either, but
that green on white. Green on white is hard to read. I'm with you on that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Now, I thought Evernote would let me solve the problem, so I was just looking through the Evernote menus for whatever reason today, Dave, and they have a dark mode. I'm like, oh, let me try that. It doesn't work.
Yeah, because you're looking at PDFs inside of Evernote. If you had just the raw text in there, that might work better. Yeah. Or run mail in dark mode. And then but I don't know if the PDFs would render in dark mode or not, to be perfectly honest. I think they would not. I think I've tried.
The machine that I generate the PDFs on is running in dark mode, and yes.
Okay. So that confirms that. So running mail in dark mode doesn't help. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, if anybody knows how to get mail to render PDFs in dark mode, and by dark mode, I mean with a dark background, light colored text, let us know. Feedback at MacGeekGab.com.
He said feedback at MacGeekGab.com.
That's right. If you have questions or tips or anything to send in, feedback at MacGeekGab.com. All right. This is good. I love these quick tips. Matt has another one for us. Matt says, friends, I frequently will grab the icon at the top of a document to drag and drop it to a new folder or into an email or some such. So, for example, let's say you're in Pages, right? And you have a document open. It shows you the little preview icon next to its name at the top of that menu. You can grab that and drag it anywhere. And like he said, into a mail message, into the Finder, to put it somewhere else. And it's treated just as if you had done that in the Finder, so dragging it around, which is great. He says, however, it really annoyed me that the icon was not there in Big Sur's preview app. They've hidden it from me. He says, I couldn't figure out what to do to search for help, so I trial and errored it and found the answer. If you hover over or click on the name of the document in preview, voila, the icon appears. He says, sometimes clicking opens the dropdown to change the name or location, and I haven't quite figured out the fine touch for which type of click does what, but hovering over it and waiting a second, the icon will appear, and then you can drag from there. So thanks for that, Matt. That's, another one of those things. You know, we like stuff when it works the way we're used to, but sometimes the new way is better. We just have to get used to it. That's sort of the trick, isn't it? I don't know. Yeah. I know. All right. Moving along, John?
Indeed.
Okay. Patrick says, on the M1 Macs, to boot into recovery mode, press and hold the power button on your Mac until you see the startup options, and then click options. And then when you're in recovery mode, you can run the startup security utility, which will allow you to switch between full security and reduced security. And in reduced security, you have two options. The first thing is that full security allows only the current operating system or a signed operating system currently trusted by Apple to run. And it requires a network connection when you're installing software. So bear that in mind. That's full security. Reduced security allows any version of a signed operating system, software, or ever trusted by Apple to run. And then there's two checkboxes. Allow user management of kernel extensions from identified developers, which you can check on or off, and allow remote management of kernel extensions and automatic software updates. So depending on how you're using your Mac, especially your M1 Mac, you may want to go in and do this so that you can set your security policies in a way that they will work for you. So there you go. We are still hearing that M1 Macs, I need to test this on mine, that they will boot from external drives without making a change to security settings. But there's some caveats there. In fact, Simon brings up one of those caveats. And that is, he said, I was listening to 862 where you were talking about booting from an external SSD. He says, for M1 Macs, reports from people like Mike at Carbon Copy Cloner and Howard Oakley at Eclectic Light suggest that you need to use Thunderbolt drives for external boot on an M1 Mac. USB drives aren't always as reliable in being bootable from M1 Macs. Again, all this evidence is anecdotal, he says, and I will quote Kelly Gumont, the plural of anecdote is not data, but in the absence of data, we will use the anecdotes. And he says this anecdotal evidence seems to show that Big Sur, especially on M1, does not always play well with USB boot devices. So hopefully this is only limited to M1, but it makes me want to test my USB drive that I'm cloning to down in the office because I want to make sure that I can boot. One thing we did not say for World Backup Week, John, last week was this, and that is test your backups regularly. I don't think we said this last week, and if we did, it bears repeating. Backing things up is great, but knowing how to restore from them is also equally as important, because if you're in pressure cooker mode, you want to be able to know that, I have some muscle memory of how to boot from my clone or how to restore data from Time Machine or one of those things. And it also confirms that your backups are working as intended when you don't need them. And that's sort of another important thing. So make sure you test your backups. All right. That was a lot about M1 security and Thunderbolt versus USB booting and of course, backups. Do you have any thoughts on any of that, John?
Carbon Copy Cloner does have a verification feature.
Yes, to verify that the data is there for sure. That doesn't help with muscle memory though, right? Like
right.
Knowing that it's there, trusting that it's there. Don't get me wrong, that's great. But knowing how to do it and having done it, like I think there's two different things between knowing how to do it and having done it. Perfect example. I could sit here and explain to everyone how a clutch on a stick shift works. But unless you've done it, you are almost certainly going to stall the car the first time you try it after hearing me explain it to you. Like it is all but a guarantee. And in fact, if you're like me, you probably will stall it again decades later because it's just how those things work if you're not doing it regularly enough. So yeah, having that muscle memory is a good thing. But it is kind of fun driving a stick. My wife, it was one of our pandemic purchases was to get rid of the big family. We had an SUV for a while. The most recently was the Toyota Highlander, and it was time, to move past that. I have a vehicle. I have an Outback, a Subaru Outback that's perfect for my drums and anything we need to cart around. And so she downsized her vehicle to a stick shift WRX, which she really likes. So, all right. I don't know why. How are we here? Okay. One last thing on this note, it seems like there's a lot of M1 Mac stuff today, which is good, is that Steve shares something that would probably be called a cool stuff found in any other episode, but since we are saving cool stuff found for 865 and I wanted it in this one, we'll call it a quick tip, is Otherworld Computing's guide to the startup modes on M1. It's a great article, and we will link to it in the show notes. It shows everything about that we currently know about all the startup modes for M1 Macs, and so I've put that in the show notes for all of you. And it really is mostly very simple that you hold down the power button as it's starting up, and then you are brought to a menu. But there are a few different things. I was doing some troubleshooting this week, which actually I'll share the result of it. But I was doing some troubleshooting and I wanted to boot into safe mode. And the way that you do that is you wait until the drives, you do the power button, hold the power button down, let the startup options menu come up, wait until the volume or volumes appear that are startup-able, and then you have to hold down the shift key. And that's not entirely clear at that point. So they've been clear. They are clearer now, but you hold down the shift key and then the screen will change, much like holding down the option key and looking in menus. The screen will change when you hold down the shift key to change and say, boot this drive in safe mode, and you click it and off it goes. So, but the link explains all of it. It's really a fantastic resource that talks through the obvious ones and the not so obvious ones. And Steve Sandy wrote it, so it's got to be good. But my weird problem, John, was this. I am actually getting ready to travel. Have vax will travel, which is true, but also we have to go pick up our son and move him out of his dorm. So we were going to travel anyway, but it's nice to be able to do it a little more safely. So we're heading out to Portland and to do that, which means I will be living on my M1 MacBook Air as my daily driver for about a week. And that's going to be a first, of course, for me. So about a week ago, of course, I started having a problem where 1Password would not work in Safari on my Air. And since 1Password is my password manager, my primary one, and Safari is my primary browser, this was a minor annoyance a week ago. A couple of days ago, it started to get me into panic mode. It's like, wait a minute, I need to rely on this thing. Like, business doesn't stop while I'm traveling. I mean, I'll pass some stuff off, but I'm really not good at detaching, folks. And while I appreciate Safari and 1Password's conspiratorial effort to get me to detach more, I needed to thwart it. And so I did a lot of troubleshooting back and forth with them. It's why I tried safe mode. They were convinced that something else was running on my Mac that was getting in the way, which is a reasonable thing. They were like, what other Safari plugins do you have? Yada, yada, yada. And I don't know what made me think to check this, but we were 4 days into this troubleshooting process, and, you know, the panic was starting to mount a little bit. And it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute, let me look at how I have Safari running. And so I went into the Finder. I did File, Get Info, John, and I saw the Open in Rosetta box was checked for Safari. I'm sure I did that to mess with some Flash thing or something probably a long time ago and never thought to uncheck it. This persisted through an over-the-top reinstall of Big Sur. So I had downloaded Big Sur. I reinstalled it over the top thinking maybe there was some resource that was missing, which in a sense, I guess there was because I had told it to be missing. But it persisted through that. Like that, whatever holds that setting happily held that setting through a reinstall of Big Sur. And so I unchecked the box and the problem immediately went away. And the symptom, just in case you all see it, was that it would not work at all in Safari, but I would see the 1Password toolbar icon briefly appear and then disappear. So I obviously told the 1Password folks about this and recommended that they should detect for this. And if they can't gracefully, fall back to Rosetta mode, at the very least, send up a warning for the user like, hey, you're in Rosetta mode in Safari. So I'm running in Apple Silicon mode. You're running in Intel mode. For whatever reason, the two ne'er shall meet. And you need to change that if you want me to work. Stop. It would have saved a lot of time for me and for them over the course of 4 days. So hopefully they're working on that. But I thought that was really weird. A
quick workaround when I have run into this. Sometimes password managers just have a hiccup. It's like, oh, what do I do now? This is where I like handoff, Dave.
Okay.
So what I've done in some cases is, so I'm surfing on my Mac, and it doesn't fill in the username or password properly. I'm like, oh man.
Yep.
So what you can do is run it on your iOS device. Use the app on the iOS app, go to the page for whatever entry it is, and then copy that password on your iOS device, and then go to your Mac and paste it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
that's a feature of handoff that I don't know if everybody knows about, but you can copy and paste between devices that are connected to iCloud and are somewhat near each other. I think it uses Bluetooth, so you can't do it from like great distances, but if you happen to have your iPhone next to you and things are acting up on the Mac, keep that in mind. That can help.
So Warren in the chat room and I have the same thought about this because I was literally running into this problem, and all I was doing was running the 1Password app on my Mac and copying and pasting from there, so I didn't have to like move my hands to another device. And I as Warren says, LastPass also has a native app for the Mac. So why not just use? Are we missing something, or is this just yet another way of looking at it?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Great. We have all kinds of questions. We have more tips. We have, but no cool stuff found today. That will be next week. I promise. I promise. Scout's honor. All right. I want to talk about our sponsors, John, if that works for you, my friend.
Please do.
All right. I can't wait to be able to travel again. I can't wait till we all can travel again, because one of the things I love about travel is I get to see some of you when we get together at conferences and trade shows and things like that. And that is why I am so excited about Clear, who is our next sponsor here. I've been using Clear for years, and Clear is this secure identity platform that creates this super frictionless journey at the airport. It allows me to move faster through airport security. And the cool part is, with Clear, all I need is me. All you need is you. After a quick one-time enrollment, and it truly is super quick, you get to use your face or your eyes for safer, touchless entry at airports, of course, in stadiums and more. I've only been able to use it at airports, and it's amazing. It's like so smooth and easy. It's fantastic. You create your account online before going to the airport. Once you get there, a friendly ambassador helps you finish the process, and then you can use Clear immediately with over 5.5 million people who are already using it. I am very eager to be able to use this again, especially now. Clear is the absolute best way to help you get back to what you love. They have locations in over 35 airports across the country, making it safer, easier, and faster to reunite with your loved ones or take that much needed vacation. It works great with PreCheck too. And right now, for a limited time, you can get your first 2 months of Clear for free. And you do that by going to clearme.com/MacGeekGab and use code MacGeekGab. So you got to use the whole code. That's CLEARME.com/MacGeekGab. Code MacGeekGab for your first 2 months of Clear for free. ClearMe.com/MacGeekGab. Code MacGeekGab. And our thanks to Clear for doing what they do and sponsoring this episode. Next up is TextExpander. This is one of my favorite apps. I can't live without it. And I proved that to myself this week. I was doing some troubleshooting completely unrelated to TextExpander, but, you know, honoring the troubleshooting process, I quit everything, including TextExpander. Yeah, well, not for long, because I felt like I had mittens on while I was trying to type. All the things that I do, all the things that have become muscle memory, so many of them are reliant on TextExpander, because what TextExpander lets me do, and can let you do, is you create these snippets of text. They can be fully fledged, like emails or little bits of responses, or even things as simple as an email address. How many times do you type your email address? And you got to, you know, like typing an email address requires the shift key, and that, you know, it's like a weird little thing that you got to dance with your hands. Not me. I don't do that dance. I type like, you know, DTMO, and that puts my Dave at Mac Observer address right there in an email. And I definitely never fat finger it. I never spell it wrong. No problems. And you can do that with all kinds of things, including huge, long, like customer service replies. You can even have TextExpander pull in things from the clipboard, or it can even prompt you to enter stuff. It's fantastic. You get to get your message right every time. And show listeners, because you listen to MacGeekGab, you get 20% off your first year by visiting textexpander.com/podcast. That's where you got to go. I know it sounds generic. It is. TextExpander.com/podcast. You get 20% off your first year. They'll ask you which podcast during the checkout process. I think you already know the answer to that question. So our thanks to TextExpander for sponsoring this episode. You know what I have realized after having our Helix mattress, who is our next sponsor here, in our house and in my bedroom for the last 6 months or so, is this is the first mattress that I am like really comfortable hanging out in. I wake up and I just still want to stay in bed. I know we all want to stay in bed, but it's more than that with this Helix mattress for us. It's just like, oh, I wake up and it's comfortable. It's not just comfortable for sleeping, but it's really comfortable for sleeping, but it's just comfortable for hanging out in. And I think that's because it's like the right amounts of everything to support me and be cozy and supportive. And it's amazing what they've done. And I think a big part of that is that Helix has a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete and matches your body type and your sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. It's true. Lisa and I both did the quiz. Thankfully, we both came up with the same answer, but you answer about your partner too. So it's no surprise that we both came up with the same answer. It's very cool. Very, very cool the way that they do it. And you can take the quiz yourself too. You just go to helixsleep.com/MGG and they'll match you to your customized mattress too. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/MGG. So just go to helixsleep.com/MGG, do the quiz, figure out your mattress, and you're good to go. Our thanks to Helix Sleep for sponsoring this episode.
All right, Dave, let's go to Kevin. Kevin has a mystery.
Okay.
In that FileVault is mysteriously being turned off, or at least that's the title here. But Kevin says, years ago when I bought my 2014 MacBook Pro, one of the first things I did with the new machine was turn on FileVault. It took several hours to encrypt the disk. Back then, yes. I saved a screenshot of the recovery key and I haven't thought about it again in years. Fast forward to this morning when I was looking through security and privacy in system preferences and saw that FileVault is turned off. I didn't turn it off, and I don't know any way it could have been turned off. I'm very puzzled. A bit of Google Foo turned up nothing about FileVault being disabled without your permission. Here's my only theory, and I think it's a good one. About a year ago, the internal SSD was nearly full, and I purchased a larger one. I cloned the original SSD to the new one using Carbon Copy Cloner and an external enclosure. Then I swapped out the original SSD for the larger one. Since Carbon Copy Cloner's file level copy, I assume that swapping the physical SSDs resulted in the new one not being encrypted. If that's the case, then I have to turn on FileVault again and encrypt the new SSD. If that's not the case, I'm completely at a loss. I would say his suspicion is correct in that making a clone results in an unencrypted drive that you then have to re-encrypt. I ran into, just as an aside here, I did run into something similar, Dave, when I went from my MacBook Pro 2012 to the 2019, in that FileVault wasn't enabled. But here's the caveat. I just thought I'd mention this. It was just more like FYI for Kevin. But since this machine has the T2 security chip, Dave, as far as I know, by default, it encrypts the drive.
That's my understanding too, is that the drive is encrypted, but when you use it, which is what makes the FileVault encryption and decryption processes instantaneous. What I understand though is that if you use FileVault, the key to unlock that is not stored in your T2 chip, or at least there's another key. Maybe it is stored in the T2 chip, but to unlock that key, there's something either at the OS level or that's stored in iCloud that you need to decrypt that drive. So it does add a layer of individualized security when you turn on FileVault. But you're right, the data itself is encrypted, but the T2 chip has the key. The data is encrypted regardless, and then the T2 chip is there. So, yeah.
I think what happened is, so I enabled FileVault, and it enabled it like instantly, which is definitely not how it worked in the past. In the past, it would show you a progress bar, and it would take hours. Whereas here, so you get some added bonus features if you enable it on a T2 chip, as you just pointed out.
Yeah, it's just sort of how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah, and then to continue, just an FYI for people that run into the same sort of thing here. So he went to turn on FileVault, and then he got this dialog saying, recovery key. A recovery key has been set by your computer, by your company, school, or institution.
Okay, that's interesting.
It sounds like it's almost part of like it's a managed machine that they're mentioning school or institution or company.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So when he got that, he clicked on it, continue, but he never got a recovery key. So he, I guess, turned it off and then turned it back on again.
Sure.
But as a follow-up, so he found out, I think, why this happened. So he figured it out and thought he'd share what he found. And in case anyone else gets caught, it turns out that when you restore a clone of a FileVault encrypted drive, the newly restored drive is unencrypted, but it contains files about the old recovery keys in the keychains folder. Removing those files will reset the system and allow you to start the FileVault process from scratch.
Interesting.
We have a little Stack Exchange article that goes into that, so we'll link to that article. But yeah, so it's an article, what to do if you get this message, which is an odd message. Again, I thought if I got this message, I would think that there was a configuration profile somewhere.
Sure.
Because Apple does have school and institution and company management. Well, not anymore. They used to.
Right. Well, I mean, it still exists. It just not managed by Apple the same way. You would use a third-party tool to do it. Right. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, Warren in the chat room says that FileVault is not on by default for a T2 chip for the reasons that we discussed here. And he says he doesn't use it for his stuff. He's found nothing but problems. Warren does a lot of consulting for people. That's his gig. And he says, but since the drive is soldered in, it's probably okay, which makes sense. Yeah, because you're not changing it out and potentially having those issues. So cool. The chat room, of course, is at live.macgeekgab.com. And you can join us anytime we are recording the show. You get a little sneak peek at what the episode's going to become, and you get a little before pre-show and post-show discussion too, which is, well, it's sometimes very interesting, and sometimes not. I would assume your mileage may vary. Brian has, back to what seems to be a theme of M1 Macs today. Brian says, talking about MACGEEKGAB 862, where there was listener Mike who was talking about his M1 Mac that was bricked because of a few things he did. He said, I recently bought an M1 Air and had an AUKI USB-C hub that was a powered Thunderbolt hub. I immediately started having kernel panics at random times. A day or two later, Apple released that patch of macOS 11.2.2 that Mike mentioned to prevent non-compliant powered hubs from damaging MacBooks running Big Sur. Unfortunately, the damage for me was already done. I continued to get random kernel panics even after installing the patch. It says it turns out this patch was primarily meant to prevent MacBooks from being bricked. However, the level 2 tech to whom I spoke suggested that random kernel panics were a less frequent symptom of hardware damage. Luckily, Apple agreed to let me swap out my Air, even though I was 1 day past the 14-day return window. Mike's story reminded me of my experience. If he continues to have problems, he may be able to get Apple to replace his M1 Mini. After all, Apple is somewhat responsible for the whole mess. Somewhat. Yeah, that's fair. Cool. That's good to know. Thank you, Brian. I'm sorry that the 11 seems that 11.2.2 for this is preventative, not restorative in that sense. I don't know what the right verb would be to use. So anyway, cool. Thank you for that. Speaking of M1 minis, John, I have an M1 mini on the way. I was not planning on buying another Mac until the iMacs came out. And to be fair, I have not bought another Mac, but I had a domain that I bought last year in quarantine with, some distant back burner ideas of maybe a business in the future or something. I thought it was a good domain. And so I bought it, and then someone came to me and said, we want to buy your domain. And as always, I tell anyone that wants to buy one of my domains, it's 10 grand. Now I know that this domain is not worth 10 grand, but it keeps me from having to deal with the people that want to pay me $50 for a domain that I've clearly invested at least a little bit of time and a little bit of money into procuring. And so they kept up the conversation, and they said, yeah, we don't have 10 grand for this particular business. We also don't think the domain's worth that, but we have something in which you might be interested. A brand new 2 terabyte, 16 gig M1 mini. And I thought, of course, I'm answering these emails from my 2014 OG Retina iMac that is having days where it is slow. So it was like, maybe that's not such a bad idea. So I did the trade. The thing's on its way. The problem with this is that I'm very used to looking at an Apple 5K Retina screen all day. And So I needed, and I have my second monitor is, either a Monoprice or a ViewSonic, depending on whether I'm in the office or the studio. 4K UHD 27-inch screen. They look great, but having them next to Apple's 5K Retina screen, it's obvious that great and even better, even greater, I should say, is the accurate comparison. And so I also have ordered a refurb from Amazon LG 5K display. So my domain trade for a an M1 Mini is so far costing me about $950. So, but whatever. Like, it's fine. It's fine. Something to do. It's, So I'm excited, though. And I'm really eager to see how 16 gigs in an M1 works for me as my daily driver. I think that machine downstairs has 40 gigs of RAM in it because I just, I didn't max it out. I think I could have gone more, but I put lots in when I got it. Obviously I can't do that with the M1 Mini, but we also need to think about RAM differently with the M1 Max than we have previously. So I'm eager to learn, and this LG 5K display won't go to waste. And let's be perfectly honest, I wasn't going to use that domain anyway, or at least not anytime soon. So there you go. Yep. And to answer the question, I just got in a text message here. It's probably a bad idea to answer, but I'll answer it anyway. The domain was/is setandsetting.co. I will let you interpret that on your own time. But there you go. So, all right. Any thoughts on any of that? Should we moving on?
No.
Moving on to Rodney. So I'll let you know what I think about the M1 Mini once I start using it. So moving on to Rodney, John.
So Rodney, this is one from the mists of time. Rodney asks, I was wondering if I could, with USB Ethernet adapters, run 2 Ethernet connections at the same time on my 2 Macs. So we'd like to do internet. Okay. Second one for time machine backups. And I'd like to set one Mac as a file share for backups with my existing USB drive and not purchase a network shared drive. Is such a setup possible? Because I don't want to get caught. Yes, I think so. So if I understand what's being asked about the Ethernet connection, Dave, you can combine Ethernet ports on a Mac.
Sure.
Cool, huh?
Yeah.
And where I'd look for some additional direction on how to do this is Apple has a dandy little article called Combine Ethernet Ports into a Virtual Port on the Mac. And I'll let you guys check that out if you want to combine them, because you can potentially get increased network throughput by using multiple connections. Some switches support this as well. Our Synologies, multi-Ethernet port Synologies typically support this. So if you feel the need for speed, then yes, you can do it. As for Time Machine, this also I think you can do, and we've I'll paste the path here, but basically you can do file sharing on your Mac, but you can also make it a Time Machine specific file share. And for that, you go to System Preferences, File Sharing, Shared Folders, then right click on the shared folder. I guess it could be a drive. Advanced Options, Share as Time Machine Destination.
Mm-hmm.
Say that 5 times fast. So as far as I can tell, yes, you can do both of those things.
I interpreted this a little bit differently, and so okay. I'll take it in a different direction. When he said he wanted to have 2 Ethernet connections, and he said, I want to have one for my internet connection as normal and a second for Time Machine backups, I started thinking he wanted to have 2 completely different Ethernet networks running, which you can also do. You don't have to combine them and bond them into one. You can have different IP ranges accessible via different network adapters on your Mac. And I specifically say different network adapters as opposed to different Ethernet adapters, because your Wi-Fi network can be on a different network than your Ethernet. Once they're at that point, it's abstracted out. The system doesn't care whether it's hardware, software, or hardwired or wireless. They are both network adapters. And yes, you can do this with multiple Ethernet adapters too. Now, as you pointed out, John, you can certainly run Time Machine across the same Ethernet backbone that you run your internet connection on, and that's totally fine. But if you have a reason to want them separate, for perhaps security reason, security or something else, then you definitely can. And you would just set up 2 separate network adapters in there, and you would give them each different IP ranges. You could even have 2 different routers on them so that you had the ability to, different subnets and all of that, and choose which way you want things to go. But that all works. I probably have done it with 2 Ethernet connections. Oh, I actually definitely did. I used IP Net Router, which is a piece of software I hadn't thought of in decades. And then we mentioned, or a listener, one of you mentioned 2 weeks ago or something, but I used IP Net Router on my Macs before there were consumer grade routers. And my Mac was my router, and I had one Ethernet connection to my cable modem and the other to my network. And it was my router. And I used 2 obviously different subnets and all that stuff. The other thing that I far more commonly use dual network connections for is when I'm setting up or testing a new wireless router. I can set that up without connecting it to the internet. Like I can just have a wireless router connected to power only, fire it up, and then I can connect to it wirelessly. And now I've got its subnet wireless, and my Mac knows how to talk to that router that way. But my Mac also knows how to talk to the internet via my other Ethernet connection. And so I can download firmware for it and push it over to the router without ever having to plug that router in to Ethernet. And there are times when, testing things and stuff, it makes perfect sense to do exactly that. So yeah, your Mac is totally capable. If your question was, is my Mac capable of managing 2 separate network connections? The answer is yes. And we're just giving you a couple examples as to what those might be. So I'm not sure which way he was asking his question, but figured we'd answer it both ways. All right. Any more on that? Or is it time to go to Joe?
Nope. Go to Joe.
Go to Joe. Joe asks on Twitter, which is at MACGEEKGAB on Twitter, and you're likely to see a lot more activity on our Twitter. We've actually hired Sadie here at Backbeat Media to start managing some of our social media, and specifically with the goal of expanding our audience. And so finding new ways to reach potential new members of the MACGEEKGAB family here. So, but that being said, so on Twitter, of course, we're at MACGEEKGAB. Instagram, we're at MACGEEKGAB too. We'd love if you followed us over there. We're chopping up little segments of the show and sharing some quick tips and stuff that way. So we'd love it if you check that out. So anyway, Joe says, several of the WD Red hard drives in my Synology disk station are reporting power on times of 42,000 hours. Only one of them is reporting any bad sectors, 151 of them to be exact. How many is too many on both of these numbers? And when is it time to start ordering replacements? I do have a hot spare in place ready to step in the event of an emergency. So yeah, with Synology disk stations, if you have the drive bays and you can afford to have a drive sitting there unused, I absolutely recommend and love the hot spare concept, because if a drive dies while you are away or whatever, it just takes over. And I've tested this both intentionally and unintentionally, and it works great. If you just go yank a drive out of your disk station, the hot spare takes over. It's awesome. So, to answer the first question about his power on time, 42,000 hours. Let's remember that. I looked at the Western Digital Red spec sheet, and it said that those drives are all rated at 1 million hours MTBF, mean time between failure. So you are not anywhere close, Joe. So you have no issues there. Now, as for those 151 bad sectors, if I had a drive with 151, and this is really the best way for me to answer this question, I would watch it every month to see if that number is increasing. 151 isn't a lot. In fact, I probably have drives in service that have about that many, somewhere in the less than 200 range, and they have done fine for years. The trick is if that number changes. So now you know it's 151 because you documented it on Twitter, and now we've documented it here. So check it every month and see if that 151 is changing. Your Synology will probably report any changes to you for this very reason, but keep an eye on it. And if it stays at 151, you're fine. When it starts to grow, and it will, then that's the time to start thinking about replacing it. So that's how I approach those things. I could be very, very wrong, but I don't think I am. In that I haven't run into catastrophic issues doing that. So there you go. How about you, John? How would you approach this?
Yeah, I've done the pretty much same thing. The Synology will pick it up and look at the number, and if it gets bigger, then that's bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Changes are more of a problem.
But I've had other cases where there's like a few bad blocks, and it reallocates them. All drives do this to some degree, and then everything's great. But sometimes it spirals into disaster.
Disaster. Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah. Just keep an eye on the number, and if it's changing, that's the problem. Kind of like when when I go to the dermatologist and I show them like a new thing, and they'll look at it and say, "Oh, good, you have a new decoration." That's what my guy calls them, decorative. He says, "If it changes, let me know." Or really, they'll know too, because they check every year or whatever it is. So yeah, it's that kind of thing. So hard drives are the same way. You found something about hard drives, Mr. Braun.
Yes, I did. And this is a nice report to look at. And they release it every year. And it's the Backblaze hard drive stats for 2020. So if you don't know, Backblaze does backup services. And they have tons of drives at their disposal, like hundreds of thousands, from what I can see on their table here. So this is just something useful to look at. They show the brand, the model. The only thing that jumped out at me, Dave, though you got to be careful of this. I had to. One of the drives here, a Seagate 18 terabyte, they show an AFR of 12.5%, and I'm like, wow, that's terrible. Which it is, I think.
AFR
in the grand
meaning?
scheme of things. Now, here's the thing, though.
John,
so AFR. So that. Yes, that number does not mean that 12% of the drives failed necessarily, but it's annualized failure rate is what AFR is. And it's just a measure. Now, the thing is, when you look at the other numbers, so 2 out of 60 drives failed. Okay, that's technical. So I wouldn't read too much into this because 60 is a very small sample size. The stats on the other drives that they have hundreds or thousands, or in some cases tens of thousands of, I think give a better overall picture of the drive reliability.
Yeah, interesting. Right. And those drives, they only had in service for 3 months too. So to have 2 drives out of 60 fail within the first 3 months, like you said, it's important to look at all the data on the chart. That tells me they got 2 drives from a bad batch. I mean,
yes,
like almost certainly, it's slightly unfair. Again, the data's all there. You can interpret it. I would think correctly, but if you, like you said, if you just look at that annualized failure rate column, you're like, wow, that's terrible. But it's not as terrible as it looks. Hopefully we'll find out over time. Yeah.
So, and if you know statistics, you know that one important aspect when you do an experiment or measure something is the sample size, and the larger the better. And in this case, it wasn't very large.
Yeah. Right. And for that one drive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I believe that is, just so folks looking, I believe that is the Exos Seagate drive, the 18 terabyte, which I haven't tested. We've tested the 16s here, and I've got lots of those. Well, several of those in service. And those are rated as, I think 2 million MTBF, if I'm not mistaken. So, Seagate would definitely replace those, especially, they would replace any drive that failed in the first 3 months. So, yeah, fascinating that the 18s, that happened with the 18s. I didn't even know the 18s were out, but I don't pay that close of attention. So maybe the Backblaze people are able to get drives that are not quite available for the rest of us. So, all right. Yeah, I always buy the biggest drive I can because I know that I'm going to fill it up. It's just how I go. All right. While we're on the subject of drives, let's dive in a little bit to Robert here. And Robert says, as SSD drives, or SSDs, are continuing to get bigger and cheaper, I'm tempted to replace my USB external 2.5-inch rotational backups, a mix of WDs and Seagates, with external USB SSDs for use with carbon copy cloner, etc. But I keep stumbling into information online that SSDs, unlike rotational drives, can decay and lose their data after only a year of not being plugged in. Now, I know that rotational drives can have mechanical issues if not plugged in for a long time and are damaged more easily by heat and humidity, but the magnetic data can, worst case, still be recovered, although it's expensive. What is the truth about SSDs? If I have to make sure a drive is plugged in every few months, that will make me think a lot more before switching to SSDs for the archive backups I stick in a drawer or a bank vault and forget about for a long time. Okay, so this is interesting. The first thing to note is that rotational drives are not nearly as impermeable or unsusceptible to long-term damage from sitting idle than you would indicate. As I understand it, if a drive is on the shelf for a rotational drive is on the shelf for more than 6 months, the Earth's magnetic pull can even begin to have bit rot effects on the drive that has not spun in a long time. So I would not leave your hard drives for that kind of archival storage either. In fact, I wouldn't leave anything for that kind of archival storage. I mean, there's some of those CDs and what's the name? Maybe somebody in the chat room can help remind me of the type of CDs or DVDs, sorry, that are supposed to last a really long time. We talked about it in Cool Stuff Found recently. But you know, I would beware trusting anything. Honestly, I would put it on, if you have stuff that you need to save, I would put it on some kind of active device, either, you know, cloud storage, like, you know, Amazon Glacier, or, you know, one of those slow, but slow to retrieve from, but, you know, maintained, I think is perhaps the right word. And so you can pay Amazon to maintain it, or you can maintain it yourself on either, you know, like a NAS, like a Synology or QNAP or whatever, or a JBOD like you get from OWC with just a bunch of disks in it, and you know, let that do the management. But I wouldn't trust anything that's just sitting, including an SSD. Now, that said, I've had SSDs, you know, on ice, unplugged for well more than a year, and they mounted up just fine, and the data all appeared to be there just fine. But as we said earlier in the show, you know, the plural of anecdote is not data. I'm not using those drives with data that I trust. The data that I need to trust, rather, goes on my disk station. And then that's backed up either to the cloud or to at least another disk station, depending on what the data is. So yeah, multiple sources of your data really is the best. I don't know. That's sort of my thought on that, John. What do you think?
I remember digging into this. Tom's Hardware actually has a discussion about this. And yeah, someone mentioned that some standard says that SSDs at a certain temperature should last at least a year without any activity. But the article also makes a good suggestion as well, is now if you're talking archival, which is what was said here, yeah, to me, archival is like long-term things. And I think you mentioned, yeah, that there are services that's what Amazon has something, right? I think you mentioned.
Yeah, Amazon Glacier.
I was reading this.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the intent of that service is archival storage. But you may also want to consider, I've used many different ones. Like I actually used tape back in the day when digital audio tape was popular for backups. And I think you can still use digital audio tape. Right?
Sure.
There are also several CD, DVD, Blu-ray formats that will hold on to data for many years. Last I checked, though they will degrade. You know, the dyes in the disc will degrade. So
right. Yep. Go ahead. No.
No, again, there are multiple options, not just hard drives for doing backup, either network or some alternative media. You know, I haven't looked at what you can do with tape in ages. I don't even know if I could get a tape drive. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I'm sure I have one. I have no way of plugging it in. I'm sure it's SCSI or something like that. But yeah, interesting. All right. I am going to break our no cool stuff found rule because we're talking about this, and I know that we have this queued up for next week. Is this from Gary about exactly this kind of thing? So,
hey, John and Dave, it's Gary from Pittsburgh, PA again. Just wanted to let you know I listened to your most recent podcast, and you mentioned World Backup Day, and you were talking about other backup solutions. There is a solution that I've recently tried, and so far I like. It's called Polar Backup. If you do a Google search for Polar Backup, they sell 5 terabytes of data for a one-time fee, and you can still upgrade if you find you're running out of space. They install an app just like Backblaze, Carbonite, and all the other services. But you mentioned you did not like Backblaze. I guess you had problems with it on your Mac. You might want to also give them another chance. They may have fixed their software since then. Anyways, keep up the good work, and don't you guys get caught either.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, so I looked. This Polar Backup is available. It's actually available through one of our deal partners that we use at Mac Observer. So I put a link to that, and it's $80 or $79.99 for lifetime 5 terabytes of backup storage, which is amazingly huge. Like, that's a ton of storage. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that's either your lifetime or Polar Backup's lifetime. They don't offer this deal all the time, because if they did, I can't imagine how they'd stay in business. You know, this is just one of those sort of loss leaders to bring people in, I suppose, because over time that's not going to pay off. But 5 terabytes of storage for $80 in the cloud, that's pretty darn good. It does appear to only be accessible via their app. So don't look more deeply into this if you're thinking about using it for like backing up your disk station or something. It looks like it has to be run as an app from your Mac. But all that being equal, that's a great price. So thank you for that, Gary. Good stuff. John.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to throw it. Can I do a quick cool stuff found?
Please do.
Well, here we go. We were in pre-show and actually pre-show talking about IDs. So I'm just going to spit this out. It's a cool stuff found. And what it lets you do is one thing, and it does it very well. And I confirm this. It's called Scanner, and it lets you scan the barcode on a driver's license, and it will tell you what is buried in that barcode. The format of that is open. So the obvious reason would be to check it would be to verify someone's age, and that's embedded in the barcode. But there's a lot of other data. You may find it interesting. So that's what we got. And I'll link to the app in the...
that would be more a traditional cool stuff.
No, I found this useful. I found this useful for a personal project. It was like, can I make a pretend barcode? And the answer is pretty much yes.
Yeah. Sure.
Or at least I was able to figure out how to do that.
Cool. All right. Well, that would have been a more traditional cool stuff found. I was trying to stay topical here with our discussion about hard drives, but that's okay. Dennis has a question about hard drives and specifically about Synology, because Synology is making their own drives. And he says, what do you think about this? Because at the moment, those hard drives are required for use in their Synology enterprise disk stations. They're not required in their, the consumer grade or even prosumer grade or small business grade disk stations. You can still use those you can use any hard drives as we've been discussing. So I checked with Synology on this because I wanted to make sure we weren't heading down a path where we had to use Synology branded hard drives in these disk stations. And they confirmed for me that, and I said, I'm sure you're not building your own drives. Where do they come from? And they said they partnered with Toshiba to have these drives produced. And the 3 newest rack units are requiring the new drives, which really isn't all that different from many other enterprise manufacturers. But at least from the folks I spoke with, they told me there are no plans, and they see of no plans to extend this to the DS series or to make this retroactive even for older rack units. So you will know when you are buying a Synology if it is one of the few models that requires their own drives. And they say the main reason behind this is stability and compatibility, along with their own custom firmware that helps provide better performance. So yes, going forward, these enterprise units will require the validated drives, but not the consumer or SMB-focused products. So it was good news and good to understand. My guess is that this is probably something that's an extension of what started with the Iron Wolf program, where the drives were sort of built with this, enhanced ability. But of course, those Iron Wolf drives proved to be not nearly as reliable as you would want for enterprise stuff. So there was probably a little bit of a disconnect, and it was like, you know what, we'll just source our own drives and it's fine. So that's my speculation. That definitely, they have not even hinted that that's where it came from, but that's, I'm just looking, just drawing parallels, just drawing lines, looking backwards. That's all it is. Cool. All right. Where are we here? Yeah, we got a little time. In the post-show last week, John, the concept of blockchain and specifically NFTs, non-fungible tokens, came up. I think you mentioned the word fungible in the show, which is what led to that discussion starting to happen. And I found it very difficult to explain what an NFT was. So I did a little bit of research this week to see if I could come up with a better way of explaining what an NFT is and why some of these non-fungible tokens are super valuable. And the best example I could find was an article posted by Jack Rusher at jackrusher.com, and it's already linked in the show notes, that equates non-fungible tokens to signed copies of an artist's painting or an artist's work in general. So you can take an artist's painting and copy it. And that is true of any digital data too. In fact, when you make a copy of digital data, it's an exact copy. So you literally are getting the same quality, and you can replicate that millions of times. What happens though, when an artist signs their painting, even if you can make an exact copy of it, you are not making a copy of that particular artist's painting and that particular signature. Right. And especially if the artist says, if they sign it and they say this is 1 of 50, this is 2 of 50. Now those things are unique in that way. And that is a verifiable uniqueness. Now, with an artist's signature, that can be forged. But let's, for the moment, say we've proven that it's not forged. So now that's why this signed painting or a signed book or whatever it is now more valuable than the unsigned book. That's what these non-fungible tokens equate to. The difference is that by using blockchain as sort of the proof of this thing's existence and its uniqueness and its path of ownership, there is no forgery possible. You know that non-fungible token that you own is yours because everyone else knows it too. The blockchain is an open, confirmed source of the history of any of these tokens. Of course, you can use it with cryptocurrency and things like that, but it can be used with lots of things. And it confirms that this is valid because it's open source and many people are confirming it. That's how blockchains work. So that's thinking of a non-fungible token as a signed limited edition, single edition of that particular signature, a 1 out of 50, a 3 out of 50, but it could be a 1 out of 1. And then does that make it even more unique or more desirable because of its uniqueness? There's no such thing as more unique. It's either unique or it's not. But does that true uniqueness now make it, more valuable? Maybe. Depends on what it is, right? Jack's first tweet, that non-fungible token that's assigned to that, obviously that's been, sold for quite a bit. So, and valued quite highly. So hopefully that helps. That helped me to kind of wrap it. I was actually at a party last weekend too, where somebody was asking this, an outdoor socially distanced party. But a party nonetheless, which was nice to see humans with warm weather. And so it was like somebody asked, and I started trying to explain it, and 5 minutes in, it was like, I'm just going to get another beer. It's fine. It went nowhere. So now I can do it in 5 minutes or less. How do you explain non-fungible tokens? So it's signed paintings. There you go. Or signed books. Signed books might even be a better way because the book can be mass produced, but you are signing one of them, and now that has a level of uniqueness to it, or a piece of uniqueness to it. Again, there's no levels of uniqueness. All right. That's what I got. I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that, John?
Yes. Let's get a timestamp here. There's a entertaining video that we will link to in the show notes.
Great.
That also attempts to explain it. It's
excellent. Great.
I think you'll like it. You get a chuckle out of it.
Oh, that's super helpful. Having different ways of looking at these things is key. All right, cool. You want to take us to Darryl?
I will take us to Darryl. So, all right. Darryl says, I use 1Password for many things, especially when creating a new account for a website. My habit has been, after recording my username and password, to also save the initial welcome emails that these sites inevitably send inside of 1Password. I do this by doing a save as in mail and then select raw message source as the format that puts the file on my desktop with a .eml extension. Then I add to 1Password. 1Password has a quick look function that brings the email up inside of 1Password to do the preview. Very handy. Yes. After installing Catalina on one of my machines, I noticed that the quick look function inside of 1Password wasn't working on newer EML items that I added to it for my desktop. I then noticed that the original EML file on my desktop were not previewing correctly either. Okay. Getting clues here. After some further research, it looks like it's not 1Password's fault, but that starting in Catalina, Apple's quick look function itself seems to be broken when it comes to email files. Doing a quick look by using the spacebar in Catalina on a file with a EML extension brings the message up, but only with its headers, not with any of the not any other data in the email. Unhandy. Yes. After a little more digging, I think I've come up with a fix. For whatever reason, when mail saves messages in Catalina, it adds a Windows-style carriage return line feed to them instead of the way it used to do it with the old Unix-style line feed only. I'm not sure if Apple did this accidentally or intentionally. When this EML file is opened inside any email client, all is fine, but using Quick Look to do a preview seems to be broken. So Apple should either change it back. The raw message stuff, they should change it or update Quick Look so it works again. But he did find a fix. You can open the file in BB Editor, I'm sure any full-featured text editor, do an apply text transform and select change line endings to Unix. Apply the transform, then save the file. It should retain the EML extension. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Got it. Yeah, I hate when they change things in mail and don't tell you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And really interesting that...
Well, personally, I haven't had any issues with Spotlight not finding emails within mail, but okay. So what he's saying is that the exported message format is broken. Or Quick Look is broken, or they're both broken.
Well, they're just out of sync with each other, I think is the issue. So, yeah. All right. Well, I think that's about where we have to wrap it up, John. our time is short. The good news is that we get to do this again next week together. So that, that's good. Make sure to send in your stuff. Feedback at MACGEEKGAB.com. If you are a premium contributor, then send in your stuff to premium at MACGEEKGAB.com, because that's part of what you get as a premium contributor is access to that email address that we prioritize. We really do try to get through everything. And most weeks we succeed. But the premium address is very much prioritized by us here. And we appreciate your support. If A, you're able, and B, you're interested. It is not mandatory. We love that you listen and all of that. I do want to take a second and thank all of our premium contributors for the last week or two here. I guess it's just the last week. Yeah. Roger Y. Barry from wherever he might be overhead. I know he's been able to travel a little bit too. Craig from Pace. Ciro from Matawan. Chris from Windsor. Michelle from Quebec. Stephen from Costa Mesa. Everett from Colorado. Olga from Bellevue. Clifton from Newhall. Jason from Charleston. Jeffrey from Windsor, Martin from Carlsbad, Stephen from Granger, Jonathan from Woodside, Matt from Memphis, Ralph from Bangor, Paul from Pomona, and Larry from Alpharetta. Thanks so much. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to MacGeekGab.com/premium, where you can learn about how we have that program going and what your options are. It's very quite flexible because it's, really just how you want to help. So, all right, that's what we got here. That's what we've explained, how to find us on Twitter. We've explained how to email us. You can call us 224-888-GEEK, which, John, is
4335.
Great. That is 4335. I believe that's right. I call that every now and then just to make sure it works. Well, so many of you are using the app now, which is freely available on iOS and for your M1 Macs. And you can not only listen to the show and participate in the chat room, but you can also leave your feedback. And if you leave feedback during an episode, like while you're listening, it will tag the timestamp and the chapter name of the chapter, the active chapter, so we know what you were responding to, which is sometimes really helpful to give it that context. And yes, our show almost always, but certainly for well more than a decade, has had chapters. So if your podcatcher, whatever app you use to play your podcast, supports chapters, which most of them do now, you can navigate through. And if there's something we're talking about that doesn't interest you, you can skip ahead. Or if there's something we talked about that you want to hear again, you can jump back. So feel free to make use of those chapters. We actually go out of our way to really make sure that those chapters are valuable for you. And our app supports that too. Our app is free, so obviously feel free to go get it. We will put it out there. All right, that's what we got. That's what I have for today. You got anything else for today, John? Before it's time to wave goodbye for the final time.
Nah, I'm gonna go watch Easter Yeggs.
All right, sounds like fun. Folks, I hope you have a good week. Make sure to check out our sponsors, as I said at the beginning. clearme.com/MacGeekGab, TextExpander.com/podcast, HelixSleep.com/MGG. Of course, you can learn all about all of our sponsors at MacGeekGab.com/sponsors. Have fun. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. Stay safe. And don't get caught. We'll see you next week.
Made on a Mac.
All right, we are out. Let me kill the recording here. Great. Okay. I'm curious. Launch time and date. There were moments where it really felt like we were out of sync. But then moments after that where we weren't, and I can't tell if it was just, I don't know, just our normal sort of thing or not. So do you have time and date up? 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40.
I'm like 2 seconds ahead of you.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. So I was texting you about that in our chat room here for like the last 15 minutes, just trying to get your attention on that.
Oh.
So.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, that's why it's red.
That's why it's red. Yeah, exactly.
Oh well.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like 5 seconds out of sync, but it was definitely a couple. So. Yeah. All right. No problem. It was workable.
Make that sidebar a little larger.
All right.
Yep.
Good. Where is that? Let's see. Agitation. MISC MGG. Is that where it puts it? No. All right. Thank you, folks. We'll see you next time. I'm going to go process this. John, I know you have your Eastering to get to with your family, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I turn this off? Okay. Thanks to everybody on Facebook. We'll see you next time. And once that's gone. Yes. Okay. And thanks to everybody on YouTube and the live stream there. We'll see you next time. Tuesday is the day because I'm traveling. So we're recording early. And then, to put